So good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Bonsai webinar. It's right at 10 a.m. So we are just going to wait a couple more minutes to let all the attendees pile into the room. If you have any questions in the meantime, just feel free to raise your hand. If you have any issues with sound or anything else, if you look at the GoToMeeting panel, there's the ability there to ask questions. But what we'll do, we'll just wait a couple more minutes for everyone to get onto the webinar, and then we will begin. Perfect. So it's 10:02. So let us begin. So thank you for attending this in our Bonsai webinar series. It's the first one of the year, unfortunately, but there's going to be many, many more to come. This Bonsai webinar is around communicating, collaborating, and engaging to boost employee productivity with Office 365. So there's a couple of speakers today for today's webinar, but before we get going, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you've ever attended one of our Bonsai webinars before, you know that we love to keep this fairly interactive and fairly light. So if you have any questions, feel free to either ask us by raising your hand, and I'll go through that in just a moment. But in addition to that, if you're the social media type, and I know we have Chantel standing by to do a whole range of tweeting, then feel free to use the #Bonsai webinar hashtag if you have any questions or any thoughts. And like I said, we'll be live tweeting. Now, if you do have any questions as well, one of the great things about GoToMeeting is that you can ask questions throughout this presentation, and we really encourage you to do that. You know, we like to keep these fairly light, as I said previously. So all you need to do is click on the raise your hand piece there, and then we'll try to answer them as soon as we can. So my name is Michal Pisarek. I am the Director of Product here at Bonzai Intranet for SharePoint and the founder at Dynamic Owl Consulting. So my role here with the organization is really to help guide the product vision. I'm a 5 times Microsoft SharePoint MVP, so I do a lot of speaking both around SharePoint, the Office 365, and in particular the intranet and digital workplace space. If you have any questions at all for me, either before or after, feel free to reach out to me through Twitter. I was at Michal Pisarek, or get in touch with me as well through other means. I'm more than happy to help and answer any questions you may have. Now, joining me as well, and I'll get Sheldon to jump on in just a little bit moment after this intro, with Sheldon Mackarenko. So Sheldon is a Microsoft Business Productivity Specialist, and Sheldon's been really instrumental in running these series of both webinars, but also in-person events, talking about the productivity vision that Microsoft has around Office 365. And I know this is something that's really interesting for a lot of our customers, both those customers that we're consulting with, but in particular our Bonsai customers, to make sure that that you know, whatever we're doing with the product aligns to what Microsoft is thinking, but also to get a bit more of an understanding in terms of where Microsoft is trying to go with the Office 365 platform. So a little bit about the organization that I work for. So I am part of a company called Dynamic Owl Consulting. We are a Microsoft Gold and Managed Partner based here out of Vancouver, Canada, BC. We're one of the few companies around the world that specialize in just end-to-end SharePoint and Office 365 implementations. We also have some pretty smart people here, so a number of SharePoint MVPs on staff. We really work with Office 365 and SharePoint, and One of our products, or our main product at the moment, is called Bonzai Intranet for SharePoint, which, if you've seen our website, is a beautiful intranet platform that sits on top of Office 365 and SharePoint 2013 and even SharePoint 2016 now, that provides all of these additional intranet capabilities that you might be looking for. So let's talk a little bit about an agenda today. So what we're going to go through is really three kind of pieces. So the first thing that I'm going to do is get Sheldon from Microsoft to talk about the Microsoft productivity vision for Office 365. I think it's really important to note for customers, but even potential customers and everyone on this webinar, what Microsoft is thinking, where Microsoft views productivity, and really how you can make the best use of all of these tools that are coming out of Microsoft to make your employees and your organization obviously more productive. The next thing we're going to do is a very quick Office 365 overview, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about Office 365 and all those common features. We're going to talk about some of the new features that I've seen come out in Office 365 that have been extremely useful. Those features being Delve, and also the video portal, and maybe we'll touch a little bit upon Planner as well, which is one of the new features. And then the last thing that we'll talk about is engaging your workforce. We'll talk about why employee engagement and workforce engagement is really, really important. And we'll show you how our Bonzai Intranet for SharePoint product really helps engage employees throughout your organization. So that's a little bit for me. I will be back soon, but I have Sheldon Mackarenko on the line. So Sheldon, welcome to the webinar. And what I'm going to do here is make you a presenter, and then we can get going.
Thank you, Michael. So let's just share my screen on your side, and then we'll get started.
Perfect. We can see the screen, so you're good to go.
Great, thanks, Michael. As Michael mentioned, my name's Sheldon Mackarenko. I'm with Microsoft as a productivity specialist. And what I'm going to take is about 10-15 minutes and just discuss kind of what is a productivity to Microsoft. I mean, everyone's thought about Microsoft being that Windows and Office company, and what does that mean from the desktop? When Microsoft looks at actually what productivity is, we look at how do we reinvent it. What is new? What's new today was maybe non-existent 5 years ago. And so when we talk about reinventing productivity, it's all becomes about business function and business outcomes. And Michael mentioned a couple things that are very critical. Things like enterprise social. How do people interact with content? How do people receive the information they need in a more informative way from all the sources around them? How are they going to interact? Is that going to be from a computer, from a laptop, from a tablet, from a phone? What does that look like? And when we look to build all this information that we're gathering, we need to build that on an intelligent cloud, that provides the services that are needed so people can be the most efficient how they work in their daily lives. And as people start now blurring the lines between working in a business and being in a part of the enterprise and their personal life, those lines of the needs become very close to working together around personal computing. And so I'm not going to use a different phone for my work as I use for my home life. So how do I blur those lines together so that things are done in a secure way, but done in a way that I can still be efficient in a seamless manner? So when we look at reinventing productivity, we're not talking about things of Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those are all good and those are all great solutions. But we're talking about how do people want to have meetings today? How do they want to collaborate, communicate in an effective way from any device that they need in a responsive network? So when we do look at what is Office 365, people are going to think about it, and you should think about it from the core services that are there. The services that enable mobility are going to be around core services of email, around how do we communicate and collaborate, which is Skype for Business and SharePoint, and then how do we share files in a secure way from device to device, and then discovery. How do we discover content? Currently, today or potentially in previous years, people would have said, I go to SharePoint and I discover content by doing a search. Well, can we make it a little more intuitive than that? Is what Office 365 is, enabling that end user from any device. And why is this happening? Well, there's many different reasons why this is. I mean, the first thing is work is not where you go, it's what you do now. And where we notice more and more, up to 50% of people within organizations expect to be able to work from any device, anywhere, anytime. And when that happens, we see things like what we're seeing in a non-Windows platform like iOS and Android, where 100 million copies of Office has been downloaded on those devices so people can be more productive from a non-Windows device. Microsoft's always going to be great for their own platform. We need to be even great for other platforms that we may not own, but we need to support. And because of that need for productivity across multiple devices, we also need to understand an end user, a person, an employee, is going to work from many different devices throughout a day. On average, people have 3 to 4 devices. And so that means people aren't going to sit down and say, I'm working today, so I'm going to work from my laptop. They're going to say, you know what, I received an email, I'm going to have to look at that spreadsheet through my phone, and I might actually need to respond to someone from this device because I'm currently out walking the dog or something like that. What this really does, it becomes a really big shift. It becomes a shift from traditional hierarchies where information may move slowly and is controlled and commanded by the organization to information that has to be a little more dynamic and responsive networks, where people can learn, adapt, and crowdsource information at any given time. And when we move into being a network, what it does is it allows people to basically consume information at a rapid pace so that they provide potentially the ability to do their job better, but the ability to be more agile in what their job actually is. Now, what does this actually, why is this actually happening? One of the big ones that people look at is the change of demographics within the workforce. When we look at the workforce back in 2008, we would have had what we call baby boomers, who were 42% of the workforce. By 2018, the baby boomer is going to be reduced to about 14%. If we look at the year 2020, that reduction is going to continuously happen. And what's going to happen is within the next year, we're going to have 50% of the workforce be what we call millennials, people between the ages of 20 and 34. By having a younger demographic of a workforce and people who are going to impact day-to-day business brings a need for a change and shift in how people work today, because that workforce has worked differently coming up through their education, and they don't want to go and work on the way that people work for the last 20 years. They want to work the way that they have learned about when they've gone through their schooling. One of the other big shifts that we do notice and is happening is explosion of data. If we look at data in our personal life, whether Michael mentioned that social media is being followed right now and people are going to tweet questions publicly, we have people who are doing things like Fitbits and counting their steps, and we're noticing that people have access to their emails and their meetings from any device that they work on. So we've got this infinite amount of data on many different apps and devices fighting for our finite time. That's from a consumer standpoint. Well, that's happening within the business standpoint too. If we look at the amount of data that's been created in this world, 90% of that data has been created in the last 2 years, and there is no organization that I talk to who is seeing a reduction of data and analytics that need to be done so that they can proactively run their business better. By the need for more data, we need to be able to consume it, understand it, and make better decisions on those insights that we can accumulate so that, once again, we can be more productive in how we work day to day. We don't have more time, but we have more information that is coming at us. What is noticed when that happens is the need to consume information changes. And so you see a shift of what Microsoft's doing with things like what we call Office Graph. Office Graph is our underlying engine and our underlying learning engine of enterprise social. So when we look at things, Michael mentioned Delve, well, when we get into things like Yammer, some of these things are product specific, but what's really important is what these solutions are trying to do. They're trying to take the individual, in this scenario, me, and the content around them, whether it's the documents, the people, the conversations that are happening. What we're really trying to do right now is put that individual at the center of the information. Instead of me going and continuously having to go find information, I would like a news feed, an aggregator, something that says, you know what, you're working on these projects, you're working with these people from these locations during these hours. Why doesn't information trend around me so that I can get to that information quicker in some type of electronic news feed instead of me continuously having to go find that information? That's where we're seeing a major shift, is how can I be more responsive and more agile based off the device I want to work at? Something like the Office Graph Engine, which is the underpinning for all of our enterprise social strategies within Microsoft, is giving me that ability. Now, I keep using the word agility and the ability to have a higher cadence and rigor and the ability to get information quicker. Well, how do we do that? I mean, we're used to systems where we think about from an IT standpoint, where we do upgrades every 5 to 6 years, and you know what, we're going to formalize and plan that out. We look at the need for us to be a lot quicker and have a lot higher cadence, and to do that is taking advantage of cloud computing. And when we look at where Microsoft's doing any strategic investments, it's to a cloud-first approach. And so that might be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. And what we're seeing is this extensive environment where we're having things like Canadian data centers being brought to the country I live in for data sovereignty and data residency. But it's for Microsoft to provide services globally that people may be able to provide on premise, but not at the scale of economies that an organization like Microsoft can do. And what that leads us to seeing is the amount of fiber that an organization like Microsoft can lay being immense, where Microsoft now provides the third largest network in the world, the first being the internet itself, and the second being Android's app store for their devices. Microsoft is now making this huge investment into fiber and dark fiber and interconnectivity at such a hyper scale that anything that we're strategically goes there first if you make it does. Now, when I get to talk to the organizations and my customers on a daily basis, going to a cloud service brings up a lot of security questions. This slide here isn't actually about security from, if you go to cloud, you're less secure, you're actually more secure, but it's the fact that there are more attackers out there who are trying to get to your data, whether it's on-premise, whether it's in a hybrid, or whether it's in a cloud service. And what Microsoft, part of their 3 pillars of our strategy, are doing is taking all the cybersecurity we're providing to our data centers and now bringing that potentially to your on-premise environment. It's no longer good enough to have malware updates happening once a day, once a week, once a month. We need to be able to protect the individual from what we would call zero-day attacks, from people when they click on links, when they respond to emails, when people are taking action in that minute or second. How do we make sure we protect that individual from the perpetrators who are out there who are trying to truly get to your data? When we look at the number of breaches that are happening, I mean, it's the hockey stick curve. And when we look at when someone breaches a system, how long they're in the system, we're talking upwards of 6 to 12 months that these attackers are in someone's system. And we need to get to those people quicker, because if they get in, they're going to be in for a long time. And so we need to make sure that they do not get into the system, whether it's Microsoft's data centers or whether it's your on-premise environment. Now let's just take a quick look at kind of what that productivity platform mentioned. So we talked about the core pillars earlier: messaging, collaboration, communication. What becomes a part of the stack and becomes truly foundational is how we actually deliver applications to a lot of different devices. So whether it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Project Visio, how do we get those to Windows, iOS, and Android devices is the apps we're enabling through cloud services. But where it gets really exciting is a couple of things that Mike was going to show you later today is how do we get into a protection in a very dynamic way, but how do we also get into some of the analytics and enterprise social solutions that we're talking about that are really the solutions that are going to drive business innovation that you may or may not have today. So what we're seeing, and kind of mentioned this throughout the first few minutes, is productivity across any device. Might be the Office client itself, it might be through a browser, it might be through another application that is Microsoft or non-Microsoft centric. Also the ability for us to share content across those devices. It's not good enough just to have an email with an attachment in there. How do I have content that roams and follows me around whatever device I go to in a secure way? So IT is happy, but the end user is getting the business outcome that they're looking for. Huge investments around unified communications. When you look at Skype as a consumer solution, does the most international traffic out of any provider out there, and we're not even a telco. Skype for Business is making huge strategic investments in how we communicate and change how people have modern meetings today, whether it's communicating and federating outside of the organization to partners or to other customers. What we're doing and seeing are things like company meetings where we can have up to 10,000 people in the same meeting and have the same broadcast. Where currently Skype for Business can do up to 250. Well, we have now released the ability to do up to 10,000 attendees. But where we get very strategic in this environment is taking advantage of the cloud economics, where we can now provide through our cloud services the ability to do PSTN conferencing, do the conference call dial-in dial-out capabilities for people. And what we're going to see, and this has been delivered within the US right now, and it will be in Canada shortly, is the ability for people to do what we call PSTN calling and conferencing, or PBX calling. And what that is the ability to truly be a cloud PBX and take advantage of the cost and the scale of cost through a cloud service to provide things like dial-in dial-out numbers, the ability to replace aging PBX systems, and the ability to go to really a cloud PBX to manage anything you want, from call answering to initiation to hold, transfer, receive, and basically help individuals work the way they want and not be tied down to a phone line or a phone from their desk. What this leads to is also the need to change what's the modern experience for collaboration rooms, and the ability to have not devices where we have a projector attached to a ceiling and projecting onto a whiteboard, but the ability for people to have an interactive experience when they have meeting rooms, so that you gather content, you create content, you also save, store, and can share content to any device outside of whatever device is potentially in that collaboration room. Now, when we do look at all the information we're looking at, we need the ability to have a 360 view of our businesses, and having dashboards that give that interactive experience is essential. So Microsoft has invested huge into data analytics through a set of tools called Power BI, where we've made Excel a self-service BI tool, and the ability to dashboard and intuitively and natively ask questions of your data that are real-time data analytics, and then creating dashboards that can be pinned for potentially executive reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, but data that you can also interact with by just clicking on anywhere within the charts that creates a cascading effect into all the other charts. I know Mike is going to go a little bit more into enterprise social. Enterprise social is just that fabric and that necessity for conversation to follow our content around, whether it's document, whether it's people. But then we want to take it a little further for enterprise social, where it's the ability for content to follow us around. We don't need just a conversation. That's great and that's helpful. But how do we get to a point where we have content following us around, where if I look at the different projects, people, boards, work that I'm working on, based on what people are doing around me, can I have that actually show up into a feed that I can dynamically work with and potentially not recreate the wheel, but consume content from others? What gets really exciting is now when we take that content, that's great around structured content, but how do people work? And this is where that Office graph engine that provides that social fabric allows us to get into organizational insights, where we can actually, based off just watching how people work and monitoring people's emails, calendars, and the people that they're working with, we can figure out how's people's work-life balances? How are people working today? Is in this scenario, is Monica in a meeting 75% of the time? Do we have goals that we're striving for where Monica needs specific focus hours, specific meeting times, so that Monica has a work-life balance? We're also getting scenarios with who am I working the most with? And what projects am I working on? And how many hours am I spending on those projects? So we're getting to really a beginning of trying to understand how people work based off what they're doing day to day, and then how to surface that content in a meaningful way. Some additional content that we do get into is, you know, we're getting outside of documents and conversations, but videos. Videos is a great way for us to do learning and management videos, knowledge management videos, health and safety videos. But the ability to have an enterprise channel of videos that are collected in a meaningful way for a business outcome, well, to do that on premise, it can be very difficult, and taking advantage of a hypercloud gives us the ability to take advantage of that potentially even today. So when we start getting to what's available around Microsoft's productivity experience, to us productivity, I mean, Windows and Office is a part of the productivity story, but it's not just the productivity story. What we want to really look at is how do we build how teams and people are going to work together in different networks? How are people going to take advantage of the personal and organizational insights around them and potentially around the company as a whole? And how is this going to get protected in a way where people are not increasing their risk, they're actually decreasing the risk while improving their agility of how they want to work today? And when we look at that, I mean, the intent and everything around the productivity strategy is how do we reinvent how people work today and the way they need to work today to drive the highest business impact and business function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this back over to Michael. Thank you, Michael, for the time today. So I'll turn it back over to you so you can go through the rest of the content that you would like to cover with the folks today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheldon. So let me just do a bit of changing here. Just 1 second. Perfect. Excellent. That's a really good overview. And thank you so much, Sheldon, because I know that, you know, a lot of our customers really ask about Office 365 and where Microsoft is kind of going. And it's interesting, like you said, you know, that not only is Microsoft looking at things like the Office graph to really kind of personalize that information that's going out to people, but you guys are really looking at it in a way that, you know, you're not looking at particular tools, but you're looking at that information flow. So that's great. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to talk about now is a little bit around kind of what Office 365 is, and it's really fascinating for me, and I think for most of the people on this call, just how quickly Office 365 has evolved. And it's really evolving in such a pace that, you know, we were doing this presentation with Sheldon a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week in person. And I remember I used to have a slide deck. You know, I'm a consultant, so I have all of these slide decks. And I used to have like a slide deck for Office 365, and it's fairly new. It was probably about a year ago, and this is how we would explain Office 365 previously. You know, we would say to customers that Office 365 is kind of, you know, SharePoint Online. So you get the online piece, and you get the Exchange Online piece, and then you get Lync Online, and then you also get those Microsoft Office licenses. But what's been fascinating to me, and I think what is a huge benefit to a lot of our customers and potential customers of Microsoft, is just how quick that release and innovation cadence is in Office 365. It's much quicker than, you know, any organization can perform. So the way that really we look at Office 365 now as a company, and the way that we kind of show that to our clients, is using this. So this is a new infographic that was released by the guys from ShareGate, which are partners of ours. But this really talks about, you know, exactly how much is in Office 365 now as a productivity platform that Sheldon talked about. So not only do we have the traditional, you know, email and Exchange Online, so obviously you've got all of those email capabilities. Not only do we have the Office productivity software, which are those client, you know, installations of Outlook and Word and Excel and PowerPoint, And not only do we have things like Skype for Business, which is the instant messaging tool, but there's also all of these other features that were found. So SharePoint is a really common one that we work with, but also things like Yammer or new tools like Power BI. Power BI is an incredible reporting business intelligence tool. I mean, it's one of those things where every time I look at it, it really blows me away, and it blows me away for a couple of different purposes. A, it just looks amazing, and the things that you can do with Power BI is extremely powerful. But additionally, we used to do a lot of this kind of Power BI or business intelligence work with our customers, and setting up all of the infrastructure and getting Kerberos authentication sorted to get basic reporting was pretty cumbersome. But now you can just buy this as a service from Microsoft, and I think that's super, super compelling. And also, as Microsoft keeps innovating, there's going to be new and additional features. And this is where, from an employee engagement perspective, and this is really where I think the power of Office 365 comes into its own. Things like Planner, things like Delve, the video portal, we'll do a bit of a demo of those items, and really new features that Microsoft is looking at the moment. So Power Apps is a completely new capability now, which allows you to kind of build mobile applications that you can take, and you can leverage all of your data in Office 365. So the way to look around Office 365 is, much more than just a kind of hosted version of SharePoint. So when we're speaking to customers, and a lot of customers are making that move to Office 365, I don't think they're doing a fair comparison between the on-prem capabilities of, let's say, SharePoint versus the online capabilities of SharePoint Online, because when you're really looking at Office 365, you really have to look at it as more of a holistic platform. So not only do you get all of the goodness that SharePoint gives you, and Exchange gives you, and the Office clients give you, but you get all of this other stuff. So Delve and Groups, and now we've got these railed solutions like the video portal and Planner and Power BI. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of this stuff, but I want to go through a couple of these additional Office 365 capabilities that I find incredibly useful, and I know that our clients find incredibly useful. So the first one is Delve. So Delve is this new experience that Microsoft has launched based on the Office Graph. And what it really is, it's a way to provide additional transparency within your organization by looking at the type of content that not only you're creating, but the types of meetings that you're having, the types of interactions that you're having with people, and tries to present content to you that it thinks it's going to be the most relevant. And what I really find fascinating about Delve is it provides a level of transparency to an organization that can be completely transformative. I don't know how many times we've worked with organizations and we've heard the same kind of horror story where, let's say a large organization is doing a project, for example, and they start a project off, and a couple of people go and they create a team site in SharePoint to store all of the project documentation, and then another group of people from the same project, they also create a project site, although it's completely different, and because those project sites are secure, they don't know what's going on, and then it takes 2 weeks for them to realize, they're actually working on different types of data. So Delve is a way that we are seeing a lot of organizations really getting some real value from being able to see not only what I'm working on, not only what the organization as a whole is working on, but also being able to quickly and easily see what other people are working on as well. So it's one of these features of Office 365, which we find, like I said, really, really compelling. So let's have a look at Delve now. So if I go here, this is the Delve from our Bonzai Intranet or Dynamic Hour Consulting kind of tenant. So this is running on Office 365. Now, if I click on home here, the first thing that you're going to see is I have a list of content and documents here that, as far as Delve is concerned, it thinks that of interest of me. Now, not all of them are going to be of interest, but it does a pretty good job in terms of seeing things that other people are working on. But what's fascinating is not only is it showing me content that I've worked on, it's showing me content that other people have worked on. And not only is this content stored within SharePoint itself, but it's also content that's actually stored or that's been emailed to me, which is really, really fascinating. The other thing that you can do with Delve, which I really like, is, maybe you're not interested in kind of seeing popular documents, but one of the things that everyone is interested in is seeing the stuff that I've worked on. And if you're like me, you're probably working in a SharePoint environment, or your users are working in a SharePoint environment. You're probably working in all different sites, and it's really difficult to find a cohesive list of all of the stuff that I've edited, right? It seems to be simple, but it's actually really, really complex. So what Delve allows you to do, if I just click on me, this is my Delve profile. Now, this is the new Delve profile here. Once again, I can go and edit my profile. I get a nice little background picture. I can change the cover photo as well. But the thing that I really love about Delve is something that's really simple but really powerful. I can actually see all of the stuff that I've been working on. And the reason that this is so useful is if you're anything like me, you probably always, don't have any idea in terms of, you basically create a document, you come back 5 minutes later and you don't have any idea where it is. Well, basically, you can actually see all of the content here. The other thing that I like about Delve as well is it gives you the ability to organize information through these things called boards. Now, boards are essentially an ad hoc kind of collection of content. So think of it as more of a structured way to use tags and notes throughout Office 365. And what's really nice about this is I can create my own boards to categorize content. So I have a board here for intranet research. So we've got, the Norman Nielsen Design Annual from 2014, 2016, some intranet's best practices. I also have some additional information here. So we've got Microsoft presentations or Microsoft campaign material. We're running something with Microsoft. But it's also really interesting that I can either have these in boards or I can also have these as favorites. So Delve is one of these tools, once again, that, from an organizational perspective and an engagement perspective, you probably just don't want to turn this on. You want to make sure that you provide your users with some training. You want to make sure that users understand exactly what Delve is being used for and what's it doing. But it's something that's extremely, extremely powerful and extremely compelling. Now, the other type of portal that we're seeing a lot is what Sheldon also alluded to, which is the video portal. So this is another of these next generation portals that Microsoft is creating. And this is a tool that for any organization that's looking to do anything with video, it's almost worth the price of admission to Office 365 alone. Because as Sheldon said, if you want to have your own internal video kind of storage within your organization, there's a lot to consider. It's not just people uploading videos and users can download it through SharePoint, for example. There's also other things. So for instance, being able to have the correct encoding for those videos. So if I'm viewing my video on a mobile device, for instance, and I'm streaming it, it's going to be much less bandwidth than I'm viewing it on, let's say, a desktop device, and a whole range of other features. So Microsoft has created this video portal, and this is something we're working with a lot of customers, because when you think about it, the role of video in our personal lives is very, very high, but the role of video in many organizations is very low, and I think the Office 365 video portal is really going to change that. Now, from a business case perspective, we're actually seeing a lot of organizations use the video portal for some really specific business cases. So the first one is around training, giving maybe a HR group or an organization the ability to upload training material through here and giving people the ability to view that. But what I really like about the video portal concept that Microsoft has provided is this concept of end user generated content. So I'll give you a really good example. We work with a number of engineering clients, and what these engineering clients do is there's actually a native app that you can download on your iOS and I think your Android device. And then what you can do, you can go out and you can essentially record these videos, and then you can upload them through this native app to the video portal. Once you upload them, obviously everyone's going to have those videos available. So this organization is using this, and they're calling it lessons from the field. So it's extremely senior engineers standing out in the middle of a test pit or a drill hole or some sort of, out in the middle of nowhere doing kind of engineering work, and taking 2 or 3 minute videos to share their experiences around what they're seeing out in the field. And it's really, really invaluable. We've got another banking client that's doing the video portal, and they're using it to basically do quick kind of 2 or 3 minute videos, testimonials about how they've helped customers or even about their branch. And once again, it's one of those things that comes free with Office 365. So it's something that definitely should be worth using. So this is our video portal from Dynamic Hour. So we've got a whole bunch of kind of videos here that we've uploaded. Now, some of these videos are kind of generated. Some of these are ones that we've downloaded and we've put them up here on demo purposes. But a couple of really interesting things you can do with the video portal. So the first thing, you can have featured videos through here. So we've got a couple of videos up here. We've got a whole bunch of Porsche fans. So there's some Porsche fan videos through here. It also shows you trending videos as well. So any videos that are trending within your organization. But you can also have videos put into specific channels as well. So for example, not all videos have to be in one specific channel. Maybe you've got videos in specific channels, and maybe those channels are based upon department lines. Maybe they're based upon business units. Maybe they're based upon other items. But it's a nice way to segregate those videos. So if I want to see all the videos, let's say in the engineering area, I can click onto here. I see all of the trending videos, all videos and my videos. And if I click onto one of these videos here, you can see that this is all kind of done through Azure kind of media services. And let me just stop this here. So I can view this video. I can change also the quality. And what's really nice about this is that depending on what device I actually use, the quality is going to change. But there's a couple of things that Microsoft has rolled out to this video portal, which once again makes it really interesting. And it's this idea of constant improvement that we're finding with Office 365, which we really love. So one of them is around video statistics. So obviously you can see we don't use this video portal kind of much, but this is one of our ones from Dynamic Hour. So now you're actually going to be able to see video statistics of not only where users viewed, or the number of users that viewed the video, but even some really interesting things. So even something like being able to see the most engaging parts of an individual video. And this is fascinating capabilities that, for a lot of organizations are super, super useful. Part of the Office 365 suite, very, very simple to deploy to your organization, very simple to manage, and really look for Microsoft to do these additional kind of web solutions. But the video, once again, if you're thinking of making that choice between an on-premise SharePoint or the capability of Office 365, at the moment, there's no real way to have the same Office video capabilities with an on-premise version of SharePoint. Now, the final one which I want to talk about as well is something called Planner. So this is, once again, a new capability, and this Planner really is for kind of lightweight task management. There's a bit of an overlap between kind of SharePoint sites that are available. So we know that in SharePoint sites, typically you have the ability to have something like a task list, but this is a much easier, much quicker way and a much more visual way to create what are called plans and allow people to basically start collaborating. So for example, we have been working with the Canadian seminar series. So I can go into here and I'm going to see plans. Now think of these plans as very much kind of like Trello. If anyone's used Trello, there's a number of different tasks that you can basically assign to people. You've got things like charts, for instance, so you can see exactly how many tasks have been assigned, who they've been assigned to. You can see the ones which are late and the ones which are completed. But you can see this is a very quick and easy way to be able to manage these tasks through here. Now Planner is new. It's definitely in first release. I'm not sure if it's available for all Office 365 tenants, but it will be in the future. And once again, it's one of these capabilities that, as a user, when I move throughout my Office 365 environment, not only do I have access to OneDrive, into my mail, into my video, into Yammer, but I'm going to have access to all of these additional tools. Now, what's also interesting though is from an engagement perspective, we're seeing that there's all of these various tools that Microsoft is providing for Office 365. But there's also some key drivers that we're seeing from an employee engagement perspective that organizations are looking for, which Office 365 doesn't offer. Now, as we know, Office 365, from an intranet perspective, in terms of communications or news or even managing events, doesn't have those capabilities out of the box. But luckily enough for companies like us and for our product of Bonzai Intranet, we have all of the capabilities that allow us to create an intranet experience, really leveraging all of these tools and capabilities that Microsoft has created. Now, when we talk about employee engagement, there's a whole range of research that basically shows that the more engaged your employees are, then the more effective they're going to be. Now, there's a range of studies that have been provided by many organizations that engaged and enabled employees are obviously going to be much more performant, your customers are going to be more happy, your financial success is going to be much better, and your employee turnover is going to decrease. But from that employee engagement perspective, there's common questions that clients ask us about Office 365. So we know that Office 365 is not going to solve every single problem that an organization will have. So what we've done is created a solution called Bonsai, which is our intranet platform, which kind of stitches a lot of these things together. And there's a lot of questions that our users ask us about. So for instance, clients that come into the Office 365 platform, they ask us in terms of communication. So maybe they're after a way to provide news and announcements to an employee so they can reduce unnecessary email communication. Maybe they want to provide centralized access to forms, policies, and procedures on any device at any time. Or maybe they want to kind of manage events such as trainings, inductions, seminars, and others. Now, there's Office 365 capabilities around this, but what we've tried to do with our Bonsai experience is in order to engage our users, we want that Bonsai or their intranet to be that first place where they start. They can go to other Office 365 pieces after that, but we really want that to be that first piece. So from a communication perspective, these are the common questions that we're getting asked, and these are the kind of capabilities which I'll go through in Bonsai in just a moment. From a collaboration perspective as well, there's also questions that people ask us. So Office 365 has some of these capabilities, but what we've tried to do with Bonsai is bring all of these pieces together. So once again, people ask us, we want to make it really easy that I can find people that I need really quickly and really easily, or that I want to have the ability to kind of show all of the sites that a user can access, or to be able to request new team sites to be created. So these are some of the ways that around collaboration people are asking us to help. And also, there's also some of the ways around engagement. So a lot of organizations say, well, we have Office 365, we have all of these different tools available to us. What we really want is really a way for our employees to start their day, have a central area that they can start their day, get the information that they need, and then maybe afterwards they can go to all of these other areas within the Office 365 environment. Maybe SharePoint for team sites, maybe OneDrive for their own personal document storage, for example. So that's really where Bonsai comes in. So Bonsai is our kind of intranet product that we have created that sits on top of SharePoint 2013 or Office 365. And the whole idea with Bonsai, if I just go to it, is to kind of give people a central landing place. So for instance, I might have a number of different apps here throughout my organization, but I want our users to be able to start somewhere. And what we've tried to do with Bonsai is we've tried to provide typical capabilities around engagement, around communication, and around collaboration, and really provide that starting point that users and organizations can use to promote maybe news like we have here, maybe things like events which we'll go through, maybe various important links, for instance. So maybe there's team sites or reports, maybe there's things like Twitter feeds, maybe there's KPIs or employee spotlight items. But what we've also tried to do is to make sure that we're leveraging a lot of the Office 365 capabilities as well. So for instance, instead of me having to go to Delve, I can instantly see the trending documents I have for my organization. So this is one of the capabilities we have in the Bonsai, to show trending documents directly from Delve. So as a user, I don't have to go to Delve. I can come here, I can start my day, I can get my organization's Twitter feed, I can get my events, I can get everything else through here as well. And in addition to that, we have some additional capabilities. So whether it's something like an employee marketplace, which I'll talk about, whether it's showing latest forms that have been updated, or whether it's even leveraging the Office 365 video and embedding that directly through here. So from an engagement perspective, the first thing that all organizations look for is a central place to have kind of news. So we have a range of capabilities around Bonsai to show news and events. But the first one is really, from a news perspective, is really to be able to find a central place where users can, where an organization can communicate various news items to users. So this is an example of what we have, a Bonsai news page. So we have the ability here not only to show, the title, the date. We also have commenting, liking, and sharing enabled. We also have contacts enabled through here as well, so I can quickly and easily see and get in touch with all of the people that I need to. So news is one of those pieces that we're finding from an engagement perspective is extremely, extremely powerful. The other piece as well, I'm just going to jump onto, let me go onto another environment here. The other piece as well is around events. So we have the concept of managing events here within SharePoint. And what we have here is kind of an events management piece that we have. So from an employee engagement perspective, once again, giving users a central place to be able to go in and manage all of these events. So I can see things like the people that are attending. I can click on yes, I'll be there, so I can see all of the attendees. We'll generate a map for you. We've got some instant capabilities here in terms of commenting and asking questions. Now, a couple of other things, just because we've got a few more minutes, a couple of other things that we're seeing as well to kind of engage and help your users collaborate in particular is this concept of directories. We have a few different types of directories that we've built for Bonsai as well. So the first is this concept of a location directory. So every kind of user or every organization has a concept of a number of locations. So what we have is that ability to show a number of different locations within your organization, maybe their offices, maybe their physical sites, but once again, to help kind of users find what they're looking for, to help them collaborate and engage, kind of have this kind of location directory here. We've also got this beautiful type ahead search experience here, which is all throughout Bonsai. So as soon as I start typing something in, maybe I want to go see more information about the Calgary regional office, for instance, and I'll see all of the information here about this particular area. The other type of directory, which I'll quickly cover as well, is probably the one that we're seeing most organizations have the most kind of struggles with. And from an engagement perspective, and really from being able to communicate or help people find the person that they're looking for, is what's called our employee directory experience. And this is an experience that we've worked with a lot of clients that have put into Bonsai, really to make this process as simple as possible to be able to find the person that you're looking for within your organization. So when I land on, let's say, my employee directory within my organization, I can see everyone that works within here. I can do simple things like filter. So here's all the people starting with J, or maybe all the people starting with L, or all the people starting with M, for instance. Now, when I find that individual within my organization, of course, if these were real people, I can start that instant Skype for business call. But in addition to that, what I can do is also click open and see all of their contact details that I have. So if I want to start an instant call with Amanda, once again, with the power of Office 365 and Skype for Business, all I need to do is click open onto this, and we are going to have the ability to do an instant click to call through here. The next thing that we know is from the ability to be able to look for people, one thing that we really love, or one thing that I really like is that ability to find individuals. And if I look at other tools like Facebook or LinkedIn, they have a really beautiful and simple interface to be able to find individuals. And it's based upon this type ahead idea that as I start typing content or a keyword, I'll be able to find people. And we have that built throughout Bonsai. It's part of our product. It's a really great experience. So, if I start looking for Amanda by first name, you can see how we get kind of people suggested here. If I start looking for Amanda, let's say by last name, by Mattis, for instance here, or if I start looking for Amanda by anything, so let's say I come back to my desk and I have a missed call, all I need to do is start typing in that phone number here. I'm going to be able to find Amanda. Now, one of the new things that's really exciting for us, it's coming out in a later version of Bonsai, is Microsoft has now exposed that graph API. So what we're going to be able to do is, instead of leveraging SharePoint search as we do here, is leverage the graph API. And that allows us to do some really interesting things. Probably the best one is around spelling. So I can actually put in someone's name or maybe a synonym, and kind of Office 365 is smart enough to determine exactly what I'm looking for. But I also might be looking for people, not by keystone data like first name or last name. Maybe I'm looking for people by other things like department or role or languages or skills. And all of this data is obviously stored within Office 365. It's stored as someone's profile. But what we do with Bonsai is we really try to enhance those out-of-the-box capabilities, providing people with that consistent user experience. So one of the nice things that we do is that you can attach any custom profile property around an individual. So here within Bank Group, they have the ability to search for people by department or by role or by skills or languages. And what's really nice is we take that same type of head search experience to that. So let's imagine that I'm new to Bank Group and I'm actually looking for someone with a particular role, and I know they work in finance, but actually have no idea exactly what their title is. All I need to do is start typing that in. You can see that in real time will give you a list of search suggestions here. You know, when it's not just the start of the string, it's actually anything. So I can search for the Chief Financial Officer, but these are actual people within the organizations with this job title. So really, really powerful. I can say, well, actually, I may be looking for a financial analyst. Press on enter, and maybe here are all my financial analysts within my organization. And from here, with some of the other elements of Office 365, I can start an email, or I can basically go and start a phone call through here, through Skype for business. So what we're really seeing is, you know, that ability to leverage both the power that Office 365 offers in terms of all of these capabilities. But we still think at Bonsai that users still need a central place to start and begin their day, where they can get communication in terms of news and events, where they can start collaboration activities, for instance, through our site directory, and where they can get engagement through, instance, things like commenting, liking, or sharing. So we've got a couple of minutes left through the webinar, and let me just go back here to the slides. Now, before we me and Sheldon sign off here, is there any questions from anyone at all? And actually, it looks like we have a couple of questions here. So just give me one moment, and I'll see if I can read these out. So let me just see here. So we got a question here. Oh, so one of the questions that we have is, why don't you think Microsoft has created an intranet solution as part of standard Office 365 capabilities? So that's a good question. It's probably one, to be honest with you, that I hope that they don't in the future. But really, in my mind, you know, I think what Microsoft is really trying to do with Office 365 is to make sure that it provides, you know, a broad range of capabilities available to users. So, you know, whether they're going to create an actual intranet solution on Office 365, I'm not sure, but there's plenty of partners like us trying to help organizations through that. The other question that we have here is around engagement. What are some of the ways to measure employee engagement? So there's definitely a few different ways that we do it, and you can do it through Office 365. So one of the ways that that's possible is, you know, maybe looking at things through the number of page views that you're having. But another really interesting thing, as Sheldon alluded to as well, is this ability for Delve Analytics. So Delve Analytics is one of these tools that's actually going to be that's going to show you how often people are, you know, using email, how often they're collaborating, and maybe later on down the line, it's going to be able to also show things like how many times a particular site was hit and everything else. So if you have any additional questions later on down the line, feel free to get in touch with us, with myself or anyone else. I know that we're right on 11 a.m. So on behalf of myself and the Bonsai team, I really want to thank Sheldon for joining us today and talking about the future of productivity. If you have any questions, both for myself, Sheldon, or even looking at deploying a really beautiful intranet on SharePoint or Office 365, or just want to chat about where Office 365 is going, please feel free to get in touch with us. There's going to be plenty more webinars to come. The next one we're going to be doing is going to be around information architecture on Office 365 and your SharePoint-based intranet. So stay tuned for that. But on behalf of myself and everyone here from the Bonsai team, thank you so much.